Getting a good night's sleep, probably not what you're expecting. I mean, this certainly isn't an episode on, how much sleep should a person get? Should they get 8 hours? Obviously people like Jeff Bezos says, get 8 hours sleep. And then guys like Arnold Schwarzenegger saying commencement speeches, hey, listen, you only need 6 hours. If you feel like you need more, just sleep faster. So this is not the time and place for that discussion. This is really the time and the place for a little paradigm shift that happened for me. So let me just get right into the story. So as a new rep coming in years ago, I was very lucky to be working in Paul Goudreau's office. Okay, so Paul Goudreau was a stud, and he did so well in the business. At the time that I was lucky enough to work with him, he had over 500 locations in 17 plus countries around the world. And so obviously he was doing well, and today he's enjoying a great retirement in Florida. So, I love Paul Goudreau. And so me being a newer leader, I remember I had 2 reps on my team, and I was frustrated with these 2 reps. I was stretched with the 2 reps. If they said, hey, Jamie, we want you to lead and coach 3 guys right now, I did not have the bandwidth for any more than I already had. So I remember one day I asked Paul, I'm like, hey, Paul, how do you manage and lead, 500 offices, 500 owners? I'm struggling with 2. I couldn't imagine what it would be like to lead and, again, manage 500 people. And he looked at me and he says, is that what you think? Do you think that I manage and lead, 500 plus owners? He says, I think you have a misunderstanding of how the business works. He says, my job is to manage and motivate and lead one person and one person only. And that guy is Paul Goudreau. I'm not in charge of anybody else. I'm only in charge of the one guy. And my goal is to get a good night's sleep every night. And so I'm thinking to myself, goal sheet, like really on your goal sheet, get a good night's sleep. And so he extrapolated on that. He says years ago, there were people on his team that were not successful. They were failing in business because they followed his example. Okay, he was taking shortcuts. He had all this charisma and he had all this talent that he didn't necessarily feel the need to have to, be the role model necessarily. He could take shortcuts. And he noticed people on his team were failing because they were just a chip off the old block. And so he made a decision years ago that, listen, I want to get a good night's sleep. I don't want to be wrestling with guilt. I don't want to be tossing and turning because people around me are failing only because they're just doing what I'm showing them to do. So he says, well, now you got to focus on being the role model that you want your people to be. Be a good example, Jamie. And so when you think a good example, are you setting the pace? Are you producing, in the field? Are you showing up on time every day? Are you showing up early? Are you modeling being a good student? Do you treat people kindly? You could come up with a really long list of what it takes to be a great role model. The key is to be a great role model. Now, people are going to choose to either follow your lead or not follow your lead, right? We don't own or control people's free will. Obviously, people are going to do what they want to do. But if people are following your example and they're succeeding, great. If they choose to not follow your example and they're not succeeding in the business, is that really on you? Well, no, you're going to get a good night's sleep because you've shown them the role model. You've shown them what you want to do or what you want them to do. And again, that choice is on them. So if they choose to not follow that example, hey, listen, if they're failing, that's on them. But if they're failing because they do what you do, that's on you. So that's the paradigm of really getting a great night's sleep. Again, it's not the quantity of hours. It's that, when you put your head on your pillow, are you guilt-free? Are you being the role model that you want your people to be? And in essence, that's really what leadership and being a great example is all about. And that's really the core of where you're going to build a team, where you're going to build a business comes from.